awarded the games to the French Alps, two regions of France. The president of France was there to make the presentation and so forth, very formal, and the leaders of these two regions of France, and they presented their case for the 2030 games. They were awarded the games conditionally. So this is important to recognize. The IOC was in the mode of making sure they wanted everything to be perfect, and everything couldn't be perfect so that they could make things completely clean. So they made a conditional award, and the condition is that the French government provides guarantees. As you know, the French government has been in some turmoil, went through a two-step election just several weeks ago, so there is no government. In fact, the French state has not formed a government yet, and there's a prime minister who's resigned, and they haven't really decided who's leading the government. So nobody's yet in a position to make the federal government guarantee. And the two states are actually run by people from different parties, and so this is a bit confusing. They were all there. They said, oh, we'll get this done, we'll get this done. And here we are, we're in Paris, so you would imagine they're credible being right in their home country. I'd also say the French and the Americans have much in common, since we suddenly have summer games followed by winter games in one decade. So over the next 10 years, we'll have 2 Olympic Games in France and 2 Olympic Games in the United States, surrounding Australia with the games in Brisbane. I told the leader of the Brisbane Organizing Committee it felt like an Australian sandwich or something, but the countries will be the anchors of the Olympic and Paralympic movement for the next decade. And so even though you see this language, you should recognize how important these countries are to the future of the Olympic and Paralympic movements. So the language gives them conditionality, gives them a little bit of protection, gives them the sense to say, we get everything we want, but you never get everything you want at the time you'd like it. And so what they really want to do is have the momentum of seeing that the countries are committed to the Olympic and Paralympic movement, and they're committed to the countries and the hosts. So then you turn to Salt Lake, and the thing that they're anxious about is the fight that is clearly a fight between USADA, our U.S. anti-doping agency, and WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. Everybody in Olympic and Paralympic sport supports the World Anti-Doping Code, including the United States. That code was negotiated and developed over many years, and all of the countries that participate in Olympic sport all subscribe to the code. If we didn't all agree with the code, then you'd have people doing their own thing. And we think in the United States that we do it as well as anybody. We probably do it better than anybody, but we'd like other people to do the same thing. You have to have a code that everyone agrees with. So we want the World Anti-Doping Agency to be as strong as possible. At the heart of this dispute lies a sense that USADA has, that the World Anti-Doping Agency hasn't followed the procedures that they should follow. And that has led to a very intense argument between USADA, which is an independent organization in the United States led by a very able person, Travis Tigert, who's famous for his record in being very vigilant in anti-doping. He's a tremendously effective person. He's also a very, very strong person. And then WADA, which feels to some degree threatened by USADA, given the sort of back and forth campaign in the media. You've seen almost competing statements. As soon as one side comes out with a statement, the other side comes out with a statement, and they have not been shy about throwing rocks at each other. We, the USOPC, believe there will be a solution to this dispute. And if you look at how this all arose, which was over the 23 Chinese swimmers 3.5 years ago, and all of that coming to light here in April of 2024, and the whistleblower providing information, which then came into various media reports, and people having to sort of reveal things that were not revealed when they actually happened. That is the context for a lot of skepticism and anxiety, and I think it's understandable that there has been so much attention and drama around this issue. But the opportunity is that you can see in several of the recommendations that are in the World Aquatics Investigative Report, which is public. I would urge all of you to read that report. It's about a 10 or 12-page report. It is very thorough, very detailed. World Aquatics, which is the International Federation for the Sport of Swimming, is responsible for having played a role in how to look at this and evaluate it. You should, again, read the report, and they have 10 recommendations that they make about how WADA's procedures could be improved in a way that would make it easier for everyone to see the steps that have to be taken and the roles that various parties play, so that every responsible agency would be able to make sure they fulfill their responsibilities and do it in a way which has a lot of transparency. Our view is that that is the opportunity for WADA and USADA to agree. They don't agree yet, but they really haven't been talking to each other. They've been playing a game of ping pong with media bullets, if you will, and it's obviously been distressing. It's been especially distressing to the international sports movement because they see this as something that undermines the United States' acceptance of the World Anti-Doping Code. Now, I'll say this as clearly as I can. We accept, we support, we subscribe to the World Anti-Doping Code. We were a big part of why we have it. And so we're not trying to escape from the World Anti-Doping Code. We're trying to support it and make it stronger. And actually, I think that Travis Tigert and USADA would agree with that statement. And what we want to do is to, if you will, cool the tempers and find a way for these organizations to constructively work better together. And that's our responsibility. The amendment is actually something that I think will never come into play, because the amendment is only an amendment that allows the IOC to have an escape clause if the United States somehow undermines the World Anti-Doping Code. We're not going to do that. We're going to try to make it stronger. And I can't tell you how this is going to play out. We can't control everything. USADA is an independent party. But our goal is to see improvements and a strengthening of something we already agreed to, so that in the future we actually have the highest worldwide standards of protecting clean sport and aggressively going after doping. So that would be my sort of short overview of the situation.
Thanks, Jean. Sarah, lighten the mood a little bit, just a little bit. The balance of the delegation is here, along with the USOPC staff support system is up and running. You can see us all literally everywhere. How are you feeling about these games, Paris as a host city, and what does this decade of sport mean for the USOPC?
Well, it's, I mean, we feel a little bit like yesterday was the beginning of a 10-year run that will be incredible. As you heard Jean reference, in partnership with France, a huge opportunity to influence what the Olympic and Paralympic experience is for athletes and for fans alike. And so we're excited about that. Let me start by saying thank you to Paris 2024 and the entire French community and Paris community. It's been terrific so far. It feels wonderful to be here. The energy and excitement is great. And they've been gracious in allowing us to bring our red, white, and blue footprint to town in a very visible way, as we like to do. So we're feeling welcome and excited, and we have quite an entourage that have come with us from the United States, not only the athlete crew, and I'll let Rocky talk more about that, but we have a huge delegation of supporters. Those are individual supporters. Many of you know, as an organization that's privately funded, it is really important to us to bring our supporters in along our journey. We'll have more than 900 individual donors and their families here with us experiencing the games. We have a number of new corporate supporters who are new to our family that are here with us, as well as a whole host of global partners who are always with us and with the IOC and all the other countries too. So there's a footprint that we haven't had in some time, really since Pyeongchang. So it's great to have the whole footprint and the whole family here with us, and to have a very strong group of athletes to compete on behalf of Team USA and to do it in partnership. So in short, we're ready and excited both about what's to come in the next 3 weeks, but frankly, we've got a 10-year horizon on our minds now as of yesterday's announcement. And so we've got a lot of opportunity and a lot of fun ahead.
Thanks, Sarah. Rocky, Mr. Chef de Mission, would love to get your perspective on how have we prepared. Are we prepared? How is the team feeling? And how have you found Team USA's, how has Team USA found Paris 2024 overall, from the venues to the villages, et cetera?
Yeah, so Team USA is ready. We're completely confident in our nearly 600 athletes to perform really well here in Paris. We have an experienced team. We have 250 returning Olympians, 122 returning medalists, and we have a diverse team too, which, you know, for the last 4 games, we've had more women on our team than men, and we have that again. And that's something that Paris should be really proud of. This is the first games that has gender equity across all the competing athletes. And that's something we're proud to be a leader in. The diversity, I think, is really clear with our flag bearers and LeBron and Coco. If you look at that, we have an experienced athlete in LeBron whose first games were 20 years ago, the same year, by the way, that Coco was born. And that just shows the level of diversity within our team. You know, when it comes to the facilities here are exceptional, world class, and the fandom here is incredible too. And I saw that firsthand yesterday. I was actually at the U.S.-France rugby match with 60,000 strong in the stadium, and just hearing the fans, they're knowledgeable. It was just such a good experience for our athletes and quite frankly for the fans. The village is, our team is thrilled about the village amenities, the way that they've been supporting us. Our building there is lovely. I know, Doc, you can talk about that a little bit with your medical clinic. We also brought our own small little weight room to the village too, so we could have our athletes work out individually as well. But what I'm most excited about and what I've seen our team just adores is our high performance center at Athletica. It's a venue right now that we have many teams training at. I was just at relay camp the last few days with our track and field team. They really look at the amenities there, and the facilities there is world class. And so my team, who's been a part of this for decades, say this is by far our best high performance center. We put in a new track there. They've built new dorms, a new kitchen staff. So it is, to us, everything we could have asked for. So we're really excited to be here in Paris, and we know that Team USA is as well.
Thanks, Rocky. Nicole, I'm going to put you back on the hot seat. I feel like these were 2 softballs.
Thank you.
Security has been the topic du jour for so much of the lead up to the games. How have we prepared as a delegation? What is our relationship like with the State Department, and kind of what's your overall feeling going into the opening ceremony tomorrow?
Thanks for the question, Kate. It takes a village to put on a game, secure games, to secure all the delegations that are here on the ground, and the Paris Games are no different. For us, Team USA, we work closely with the U.S. Department of State. We've been working closely with French security. We've also been working closely with Paris 24 to make sure that Team USA has the security posture that's appropriate for the environment that we're in today. For those of us that have been here on the ground, we've seen the security footprint here. It is impressive. I have never seen a security footprint quite like this at any other games. And I'm confident, it's reassuring. While it might bring some logistical challenges, it's reassuring that there's security everywhere. You could walk on the subway, you could walk on the metro, you could walk down the street, and they're friendly, and they will give you directions, and they will point you in the right way to get to where you need to go. And that is very reassuring. Another thing that helps build the confidence for the French security apparatus is that they're using a whole of government concept. I've talked to gendarmes, I've talked to national police, I've also talked to the military, and they're all working together to ensure that everyone on the ground feels safe and secure. And that is rare for a games where you see the whole of government, different security apparatuses working together. I look forward to the next 3 weeks and continuing our cooperation and communication with the State Department and with the different French security entities that are supporting the games.
A quick follow, though. I promise it's more fun. Okay. How many athletes do we have marching, or I guess sailing? Floating in the opening ceremony?
We have approximately 350 athletes that will be floating tomorrow.
Thank you, Nicole. Dr. Finoff, I'm not going to ask you a COVID question. We haven't been in this situation before, but would love to talk a little bit about your footprint here and how we've expanded medical services and what services we're really offering to athletes in the village and beyond for these games.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for the opportunity to talk with you all today. It is amazing to be on the ground after 2 really challenging games with the pandemic. There was a lot of logistical challenges and fear associated with the COVID pandemic, and being able to see everybody's excitement, smiling faces, no masks. That is a huge deal, and so very excited to be here. We have 200 sports medicine and sports science personnel on the ground supporting Team USA to ensure that their physical and mental health is at top level going into the competition. So those healthcare professionals include physicians, physical therapists, athletic trainers, massage therapists, chiropractors, and our sports scientists include exercise physiologists, sports dietitians, and strength and conditioning personnel. And they're deployed in multiple different locations, including the Paris Olympic and Paralympic Village, our high performance center that was cited earlier, and then throughout France at the different venues and different hotel and village locations, and as far away as Tahiti. We've also been working really closely with the Paris Organizing Committee and the IOC. We have a good collaborative relationship. We've met with the hospital personnel, and we have incredible confidence in what they've put together from a medical service standpoint. And between our team and the integrated services that Paris Organizing Committee has put together, we have confidence in the world-class comprehensive care that is provided for Team USA athletes. And finally, with that physical and mental health being at the top priority so that our athletes can shine on the field of play, we really put a lot of time into the preparation, the education of our athletes, the sharing of best practices, and the collaboration with our national governing bodies, the IOC and POCOG, to ensure all of those resources in place. This really is a team effort, and I'm excited and impressed with what has been put together for this Games.
Thanks, Doc. So we'll open up to questions. It's a little hard to see faces, so if you don't mind, if you have a question, raise your hand and say your name and which outlet you're from. We're going to do 1 question per round, but we'll come back to you if we have time. All right, I'm going to start right in front because I can see you.
I'm going to violate the rules right away. I have 2 questions.
I shouldn't have started with the front row.
In particular, okay.
That's okay.
Jean, I want to ask you on the situation yesterday. You said people can be skeptical about what has happened with the incident evolving from Tokyo. Are you skeptical about this? We have a country that does seem to have a history in a sport that they seem to have a history of having large numbers of violations and quite a blanket excuse, which in many cases in the past, similar excuses have been viewed as just non-realistic.
Well, all I can tell you is that the information that is available is information that isn't complete. So I think that is what leads to the skepticism. But from my standpoint, it's not about that. It's about how do we repair a disagreement between 2 responsible parties. And I think that's what we want to spend our time on.
And Sarah, we always love to have an idea of how well the U.S. is going to do, how well the U.S. will dominate, not just win, but dominate. I know it's so hard to predict, but what type of goals do you have for this team as far as medal count, achievements? What would be a successful Olympics for this team?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think any country who sends athletes here, any athlete will tell you that they play to win. The U.S. is no different, for sure. So we came here to play to win. But the things that we'll look at, and really the way we hold ourselves accountable to doing our jobs, is thinking about the extent to which our athletes are reaching their fullest potential. And that's really what we're going to look at and what we'll measure. From Doc's perspective, are we keeping them healthy? Are we providing everything they need to be healthy? Are we managing training loads so that they stay healthy? And if those things happen, and if we can keep everybody healthy, and they're well coached and they've got the right resources, this should be a moment for them to do the best that they're capable of doing, and that's what we'll look at and that's what we'll measure. So we think about personal bests, a number of those personal bests are going to show up in medals for us, and we're pretty excited about that.
I promise I won't only go row by row.
Two quick ones, one for Rocky.
It's a good thing I'm feeling
Yes.
nice this morning, guys.
Thank you. Rocky, why is the High Performance Center so important? And then follow up with Dr. Finoff, confident about swimming in the Seine and what you've been communicating with French medical professionals.
Yeah, so the High Performance Center is important because it really allows us to transport our Olympic and Paralympic Training Center from Colorado Springs here to Paris. And our athletes are used to the staff there. We have our kitchen staff here. We have our performance staff there. So for us, it allows them to feel like they have a home training environment here in Paris. And the partnership there started 6 years ago. This wasn't something that came together in the last 6 months. So this is something that's been ongoing. And we told them what it would take to create a high performance center that's up to our standards. And they've done everything there. They've actually exceeded our expectations in every way. And I was out there yesterday, and it was just a great environment there. Not only was Snoop Dogg there, which was kind of fun for the team to have him there, but it was just a great environment. They're very, very comfortable there. Our staff is a very secure environment, thanks to Nicole and team. So overall, it just feels, I mean, when we look at the holistic athlete, which is what we look at, how do we make sure they have all the service and support they need? That venue gives us an opportunity to accomplish that objective.
Yeah, along the lines.
Seine. Sorry, almost missed the Seine.
I will also just mention at that High Performance Center, we have a complete sports medicine clinic there to ensure the health and well-being of our Team USA athletes. And so it really is an exceptional location for our athletes to live and train. As far as the Seine River, there have been challenges over the last year, but I think that the Paris Organizing Committee has put into place some incredible mitigation measures and really invested in the things that need to be done in order to keep the water quality at an adequate level to host the event. There are still challenges with weather and things that are beyond the control of the organizing committee, but they do have mitigation measures in place that gives me confidence that they're going to be able to host the events in that location. And the truth of the matter is that they're also monitoring the water quality frequently and publishing that, so there's transparency in the system, so we can feel confident that when our athletes are ready to swim, it's in an environment that meets all of the appropriate health standards.
I'm going to go back to Henry, and then we'll go here.
Henry Bushnell from Yahoo Sports. Gene, follow up on the amendment and what you're talking about. Earlier when you talked about it, you were speaking about it as a dispute between USADA and WADA, but it was pretty clear yesterday that the U.S. government and the Brzeziński Act and the FBI are factors here. How do you plan to manage that aspect of this dispute, and did you talk with people from the U.S. government before signing off on this amendment to the host city contract?
Well, we work really closely with a lot of parties in the government, so there's no lack of information between us and our government partners. And so, I want to just reassure you, we do not think the amendment is going to have any impact on the ability for Salt Lake to operate as an organizing committee and go forth and fulfill their responsibilities as a host for the Games.
Go second round, blue.
Hi, Giuseppe, German television, ARD. I have a question to Jean. You refer always to it's a battle between two organizations, but is it much more? Because we talk about athletes, we talk of American athletes who compete against Chinese athletes now here in Paris, like they did in Tokyo 21. You remember Alison Schmidt in the Congress complaining about the situation for athletes. It's an unfair level playing field. So there's new evidence which has been published about social media chats and posts from Chinese athletes which clearly indicate that it's a fairy tale, a fake, that nothing is true. What can you tell your athletes here which are now competing against Chinese swimmers who have a, let's say, at least a suspicious record in the past?
All of these organizations, USADA, WADA, the USOPC, all have the same objective for clean sport, and so all of us are committed to all of this, and the World Anti-Doping Code is something we all subscribe to. I'm not going to respond to the questions about things that are impossible for me to speculate about, but I do know what we can influence and what we can control, and that is how these parties agree to operate together in the future. The past is very difficult, and I don't know, where that will lead, but I appreciate the fact that people are asking questions, which is up to them.
Rachel?
Jean, Rachel Axon from Sports Business Journal. To follow up on a couple things you've said a couple times you don't think this is going to be enacted in practical terms. I'm wondering the conversations you had with IOC Salt Lake City throughout this process that give you that confidence, and because the language of the amendment is so broad, where is the tripwire? Is it a swimmer coming up here after their competition and criticizing the response? Is it law enforcement action in the United States? What discussions do you have to have any sense that you guys aren't going to hit that tripwire in some fashion?
Well, I appreciate the question, and the one thing I'd go back and say, please recognize how much the IOC wants the United States to play the role that we're playing, how important it is for the IOC to have Salt Lake City be the host in 2034, how well prepared Salt Lake City is, how unique it is. Likewise with Los Angeles. This is why I said here in France, we see the French are playing a very important role with these games and then the games in the winter of 2030. And even with a conditional award to France, the importance of having our two countries make commitments to the future of this movement is profound. It's one of the reasons I do not believe we have a risk of this amendment upsetting where we are. The amendment simply reminds us that we're part of a world system. And if we want world anti-doping to work, we have to get as many people in the world subscribing to the same system as possible. So the more we can make the system stronger, the better off I think we're going to be.
Clay?
Hello, Coywire CNN. Last questions for Sarah. Team USA's women's gymnastics team is the most diverse the team has ever had. How do you describe, reflect upon what we're witnessing in regard to that?
Well, I mean, as you said, there's a deep bench, and gymnastics, particularly over the last, I'll say 5 to 8 years, is a sport and an organization that has undergone significant change and progress, and it's really fun for us to be here today. I spent time at trials, the U.S. trials, and really watched an arena of 15,000 folks, and the moment at which you realize the strength of the pipeline in gymnastics is when you sit in that room and realize that there are both young men and women running around in USA Gymnastics shirts and sort of very proudly flying their flag as young gymnasts. So it's not surprising when you see that energy. You recognize the strength of USA Gymnastics coming back. Their membership base is strong and growing again. And the prevalence of gymnastics gyms and clubs all over the U.S. gives us a huge amount of confidence that we're going to continue to see both diversity and strength and a deep bench in gymnastics. And that's frankly on the women's side, but I wouldn't sleep on our men.
Les?
Hi, Gene. Les Carpenter from the Washington Post. One thing is, like yesterday, I think the optics and kind of the perception was that perhaps you were either siding against Travis Tigert or for the IOC. Is that the case? Are you concerned by what Travis has been doing in this? And then secondly, there's, the Utah governor mentioned that I think it was the subpoenas that really rattled the IOC. That would again put you guys sort of in foul with the FBI, DOJ, that kind of thing. Is there a worry there too that that's something you may not be able to control?
Well, first of all, Travis Tigert is a very, very able person, and he's somebody we have a good relationship with. And so we respect Travis, and we respect Travis's role. As I said before, I think the tempers between WADA and USADA, as reflected in the statements that go back and forth between the two of them, are unfortunately just too emotional. And it won't be healthy if that's the basis for some dialogue between them. And so we hope that they'll find a way of conducting that interaction in a less dramatic way, and we'll try to help. I'm certainly not in a position to speculate about the actions of the FBI or the U.S. government in anything like that, so I don't think I can say anything.
Eddie?
Hi, thanks. Sarah, if on like a scale of 1 to 10, when you're looking at all the changes going on in college sports, one of your favorite topics, like your concern level about that and the way it impacts, you know, especially with some Olympics coming up in your backyard?
Yeah, well, Eddie, it is extraordinarily top of mind to us. I think I just read yesterday that it sounds like the House settlement may be made public this week. You can rest assured we'll be acutely focused on the details of that, particularly as it relates to what the NCAA calls sports sponsorship, or campus's obligation to support what is often referred to as Olympic sport. We've been huge advocates for Paralympic sport on campus, and we will continue to be loud and proud about our advocacy for collegiate sports, maintaining a broad-based array of sports on campuses. And frankly, we're going to continue to advocate for Paralympic sport to grow as Olympic sport is sustained. And in some cases, there are programs being added across some of the Olympic programs. We're excited about that. We're going to keep a close eye on programs being cut or even talks about being cut. We've got a collegiate advisory council. There are a number of collegiate leaders who will be with us here in Paris. And we're continuing to have a lot of conversations really with the leaders of these individual institutions who sit on that collegiate advisory council to understand how they're thinking about the impacts of this potential settlement on their respective organizations, is giving us a little bit of insight into where are we going to see either walls that we have to figure out how to knock down, or pivots that we're going to need to make in the system. But, and I think I've said this to you before, Eddie, I have a lot of confidence that the demand for elite level sport, both on college, in high school age, but on college campuses in particular, by U.S. citizens is not going down, right? We love sport in our country, and the education system has been a massive pathway for sport in the United States for a long time, and we're going to do everything we can to contribute to sustaining that system because it works beautifully for us. And frankly, I know it's the envy of the world, and a number of international athletes are training on our college campuses now, and we're going to work really hard to preserve that.
Alan?
Morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Jean, you said about yesterday's matter, it's about how do we repair a disagreement between two responsible parties. At this moment in time, what is that how? How can you articulate a pathway toward collaboration, please? And thank you, everyone, for being here today. Good luck here in Paris.
Thanks for the question, Alan. I think I'd go back to what I referred to earlier, which is the World Aquatics Investigative Report, which is public, and their recommendations. They're obviously an independent party of both WADA and USADA, but they're deeply in the middle of this entire situation. And they did an investigation with, I think it was 5 people who are independent of them, who they asked to review everything they could. They describe exactly what they did, and they describe the history of the situation, and then they come up with several recommendations which in their view would be improvements. So for the future, the ability for WADA to make decisions that are decisions better, sooner, with better information, better process would be adopted. I think that is indicative of the way that two parties who are not in agreement can come back together. As you know, I've negotiated things with people who have disagreements for a long time, and you have to find areas of agreement. Where is there overlap? It's obvious where there are disagreements. You start with the things where people agree, and then you figure out what can you get from that. These recommendations, and then a series of recommendations which we expect will come out of the final report from Eric Cotier, who's a Swiss investigator that took the responsibility of doing an investigation for WADA, that also could be constructive. So in every dispute, there are things that give you the opportunity to find ways to get to agreement. And I think I would counsel both parties to move in that direction, and to the degree that we can influence, we're going to try to help.
Thank you. Rob Bullard from Agence France Presse. A question for Jean. I'm just following up on Rachel's question earlier about the tripwire for the amendment in regards to 2034. You seem very, very confident that it will never come to pass, that amendment will never be enacted. Do we take it, therefore, that you think that it's an empty threat?
We obviously, together with Salt Lake City, agreed to sign the host city contract with the amendment. I have very high confidence that that amendment will never be enacted, because I understand how much we're participants in and big subscribers to the World Anti-Doping Code. So I don't believe that the amendment will come into place.
We have time for one last question, right in the back there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maria Elena Boloris with Nexstar Media. My question is for Jonathan. I heard from some athletes this week who talked about the mental and emotional challenges that they have faced when leaving the Olympics. They're part of the excitement here, but when they go home, you know, they're not LeBron James, and they kind of go back to normal life. I know you're focused on helping athletes in the competition, but what's it like to help them transition out of the Olympics?
Oh, absolutely. We have a big focus on transitions. And those are transitions into the movement, and those are transitions out of the movement and after major games. Post-games blues are real. Anytime you go through a big event, even if you've had success at that event, just going back to normal life, as you were talking about, is a big change. And for some people, it's the end of their elite sports career, because they're going back to regular life and looking at doing college. A lot of them have put life on hold. And some other people, it's kind of getting back into the rhythm of building up for 4 years later. So the long and short of it is that we've put in tremendous resources in place to help people with those transitions. And it's not just their mental health, which we absolutely have athlete support groups, we have psychological services providers that work with them, but it's also to prepare them for success in life. And so we have career education resources, partnerships where people are able to do internships to identify future career paths, mentorship programs. So we have a lot of things in place, and it's continuing to build as we're getting feedback from athletes on ways we can improve and gaps in our services. But it's a tremendous focus for us, because we want athletes to be successful not just on the field of play, but also in life.
It's a good question to end on, I think. Well, I need to get this crew back to work. Thank you all for being here. I want to give a call out to the USOPC comms team, too, if you guys can stand up. They're kind of across the, they're not going to stand up. Come on, guys, stand up. We're located on the first floor. We'll be floating about way more these games than previous games, but we have an abundance of resources from NGB, phone numbers, etc. We obviously have some American goodies in our office if you're feeling homesick, but please don't be strangers and stop by, and thank you for being here.
Sure, of course.
Only if you send it to us.
I need it for my social
I
standing.
need it for the ground.
This way?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.